Prepare our hearts, O Lord, to accept your word. Silence in us any voice but your own, so that we may hear your word and obey your will. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, there is a moment in my life that I hope I never forget. There are many moments I hope I never forget, but one in particular stands out to me. I was a youth pastor in Kansas City, and I had just taken a group of students on a mission trip to work with a small Lakota community doing construction work and mission projects and children's ministry. And I remember on this particular moment that the sun was setting on the village of Bridger, South Dakota. And this small town was surrounded by the hills of the Badlands. And these hills were covered with green prairie bushes and purple lilac flowers. And the sky at this moment held all manner of colors: red and orange, yellow, purple. And there were a group of teenagers from my youth group in Missouri, and they were playing a game of pickup basketball with some of the boys from Bridger. And the air was heavy but not humid. We had just had a downpour the day before, and there were these puddles now surrounding this church where we were working. And there was a group of girls from Bridger and a group of teenage girls from Missouri who had all removed their socks and shoes, and they were playing in the puddles and the mud in their bare feet as tadpoles swam between their toes. And I remember the smell of grilling hamburgers was wafting through the air as men and women from both Missouri and Bridger toiled together to craft a meal for these two communities. I thought about the history of Native Americans in our country and how they'd been so mistreated and cast aside. And yet here were members of the Lakota tribe together with a group of Missouri Baptists grilling burgers together. A Eucharist meal, if there ever was one. And I was walking towards this scene, taking all of this in, and I remember that the sun took my breath away, and the sound of the laughter took my breath away, and the sight of the setting sun and the whole community before me took my breath away. And I could remember feeling my eyes fill with tears with the privilege of being in this place at this time. And I remember that I could not help but utter one prayer: thank you, thank you, thank you. Have you ever found yourself in a moment where the only thing you could express was pure, unfiltered gratitude? Was it while hiking in the midst of creation? Was it after you read a book that moved you to tears? Was it in the midst of a funeral chapel saying goodbye to a loved one? Was it in the midst of a delivery room saying hello to a loved one? Was it on a date with your beloved? Have you ever felt pure gratitude? Well, Meister Eckhart, a German theologian from the 13th century, said, if the only prayer you said in your whole life was thank you, that would be sufficient. But what are we supposed to be thankful for? And how do we express our gratitude to God? Well, our passage for this morning that Jonathan led us in reading through, Psalm 136, was designed to be used in a worship service in the temple. Just like Jonathan had us do, the priest would read the first line and the congregation would respond with the second, which, by the way, before the service, Jonathan and I were joking that we worried that, by the middle point of that reading, we would hear, "His love endures forever." But you all did pretty good. You kept it up. The psalm was meant to serve as a reminder to the people of God's faithfulness and how they are called to respond. And the entire psalm is a recounting of the ways that God has moved and worked in the past. It begins with creation and it moves to the experience of Exodus. The psalm is meant to remind people God was faithful during creation and God is still faithful. God was faithful during the Exodus and God is still faithful. God has been faithful during our whole story and God will continue to be faithful to us. The claim of Psalm 136 is that God's presence and God's steadfast love, this is the Hebrew word hesed that you've probably heard before. God's presence and God's steadfast love stays with us, has been with us, and always will be with us. But we are forgetful. And sometimes it's hard to see that steadfast love in the present. I get that. When you are in the midst of struggle and pain and depression and hurt, it does not feel like God is very loyal or God is very kind, does it? Oftentimes, like this psalm, it is only when we look back that we see how God has been faithful to us in all the seasons of our lives. And every now and then in my life, I encounter somebody who so embodies that gratitude that it teaches me more about what it means to be thankful. Just a few days ago, I went and had lunch with Bill Yates. Many of you know Bill, but for those who do not, let me tell you a little bit about Bill. Bill is a remarkable man. Bill started his career working for an oil company, but he felt a call to ministry. And eventually he went to seminary and he pastored here in the community. In fact, some of you were even members of Bill's church when he pastored Pufftown Baptist Church. Bill then went to work for Wake Forest Baptist Hospital, and eventually he landed what he says is his dream job, Vice President of Pastoral Care. But then in 2005, Bill began to experience severe pain throughout his body. And eventually, Bill was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that weakens and deteriorates his muscles. Now, prior to this, Bill tells me that he was a very active person. Bill is a tall and lanky guy, and evidently at Erskine College, he was quite the basketball player. But as the disease progressed, Bill, this formerly fit and athletic individual, found himself getting so fatigued that he needed a motorized cart to navigate the halls of the hospital. And eventually, Bill was forced to retire from his dream job before he wanted to. And now he lives in Salem Town. And Bill's disease has continued to progress. He now needs help with many of his daily tasks. And for most of us, this would cause us to slip into a very dark place. And I am sure Bill has his days. But when you sit down with Bill, you cannot help but see that he is very, very thankful. The first time I ever met Bill, he told me that he tries to live his life by one prayer: Lord, today let me live by grace and grow in gratitude. Let me live by grace and grow in gratitude. Bill told me that even with the state of his body and the progression of his disease, he still tries to practice gratitude. He told me just the other day that he is so thankful for where he grew up. He is so thankful for the life that he has lived. He is so thankful for the freedoms that he enjoys. He even told me that the other day he dropped something on the floor that was kind of far away and he was able to reach it. And he heard himself pray, Lord, thank you for my long arms. Let me live by grace and grow in gratitude. There's a Hebrew word that makes me think of Bill and makes me think of Psalm 136. And it's the Hebrew word Dayenu. It's one of those enigmatic Hebrew words that's difficult to translate into the English, but the closest we have is the word Dayenu, means it would have been enough. It would have been enough. It's a word that is actually part of a song that is sung by Jewish families during the Passover meal. And like Psalm 136, the word Dayenu harkens back, and this song, this Passover song, harkens back to Israel's past. Here are some of the lyrics of that song. If God had brought us out of Egypt, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had split the Red Sea for us, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had led us through the dry land, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had fed us manna, Dayenu, it would have been enough. See, the concept of Dayenu is looking back on your life and seeing the ways that God's grace has been shown to you and acknowledging that even if all you had experienced was those fleeting moments of gratitude, they are so brimming with life that they would have been enough. When you say Dayenu, you are saying that you are abundantly blessed. You are saturated with good things. Dayenu, that would have been enough, and yet God did even more. It puts all the gifts that you've been given in this life in a context. It creates a sense of gratefulness about what you have in this life. So how do we embody Dayenu? How do we attain this sense of gratefulness? Well, very similar to Dane's prayer, I want to offer us some practices that can help us foster this sense of thankfulness in our lives. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And I'm going to challenge you to do something as you hear these questions. If you are like me, and you can sometimes be a naturally negative person, your tendency when you hear some of these questions is going to be to immediately respond with, yeah, but. Yeah, this, but this. And I get that. But I'm going to challenge you to try to stifle that voice of negativity and to focus on the blessings that you do have in your life. So the first question, what is it about your body that you are thankful for? Seriously, what is it about your body that you are thankful for? And now I know that some of you have some issues, some very serious issues with your health, but what are you thankful for? Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say you have $10 million in the bank, and you suddenly find out that you are going blind, but you can pay for a cure to retain your sight. How much of that 10 million would you use to keep your sight? Personally, I'd drain the bank. I'd want to keep my sight. How about your mobility? How about your hearing? How about your mental health? We all have things about our bodies that maybe we wish were different, but some of us have things that, yes, we struggle with our bodies. But how often do we allow those struggles to cloud our ability to be grateful for the gifts that God has given us to do? For example, Lord, thank you for my long arms. So how about you? What is it about your body that you are thankful for? What possessions are you thankful for? Recently, in our house, I went room by room, and I thought about all of the things in each room that I was grateful for. There's my coffee maker that my mother-in-law bought me a few years ago for Christmas. I'm thankful for the table that our family eats dinner at, a table which, by the way, was a gift from some family friends. I'm thankful for indoor plumbing. I'm thankful for a warm bed. I'm thankful for a TV that we can watch shows and movies on. I'm thankful for heating and air conditioning. I'm thankful for a yard that my kids can play in. I am thankful for a safe neighborhood. We are blessed. We are privileged. And by the way, acknowledging our privilege does not mean that we have guilt about it. Acknowledging our privilege means we want that for everybody else. Now, we obviously can also let our stuff become too important to us. And if you think about it, when we have a need to accumulate more and more, when we buy into the myth of consumerism in our culture, when we become obsessed with what we do not have, it is rooted in the idea that we're not really thankful for what we do have. It's tempting with our stuff to think that this is wholly mine because we've earned it and we deserve it, but it is all a gift. Even your abilities to quote unquote earn what you have is rooted in the grace of God. What stuff are you thankful for? Who are you thankful for in your family? I'm thankful for my wife, Jess, and the fact that we are still in love. I'm thankful for my son, Henry, and his insatiable curiosity. I'm thankful for my son, Owen, and his deep kindness. I'm thankful for my daughter, Charlotte, and the hugs I get around my legs as soon as I walk in the door. I'm even thankful for our Beagle Basset Hound, Rosie, and the way she has to have her belly rubbed all the time. Now, I know that some of you do not have families that fill you with a sense of gratitude. I know that some of you carry deep wounds from your families. But I would hazard a guess that the Lord has brought other people into your life to fill the gaps that have been left by all that pain. And they are friends who feel like family. So who are you thankful for in your family? Who are you thankful for in our community? I am thankful for a wonderful church family. I'm thankful for longtime friends. I'm thankful for people who put on a uniform to protect me and those I love in seen and unseen ways every day. I am thankful for public school teachers who have a deep sense of calling to their children. I'm thankful for doctors and nurses who care for all of us and who have endured so much the past 2 years. Who are you thankful for in our community? What are you thankful for in creation? What is it about being here in the Triad that fills you with awe? When's the last time you went to Hanging Rock or Pilot Mountain? What beauty surrounds you? And perhaps it surrounds you all the time so that you forget it. Think about the list you've just made. Think about all the things that you've considered that you're grateful for. Imagine if you were to lose anything on this list. Be thankful for what you have. And I know that gratitude for some of us does not come very easily. And especially, we have maybe felt that way over the past 2 years. We have lost people that we love. I think we've even lost some innate sense of community with one another. We have lost so much. But we cannot allow those losses, as difficult as they may be, to cloud over the fact that we are still a very blessed people. And please do not misunderstand me, by the way. I am not advocating that we should all take on some sticky, sweet, sappy notion of just smiling through the pain, because genuine gratitude takes hard, difficult, life-altering work. Gratitude is not for sissies. And we practice gratitude by focusing on how we have been blessed and bringing it to God and saying, this is enough. That is how we practice gratitude. We practice gratitude by realizing what things God has already given to us as expressions of God's steadfast love. And then we look at those things and we say, Dayenu, this gift is enough. And then, slowly but surely, over a lifetime, God's Spirit works on us. And one day, we are able to pray, genuinely pray, Lord, today, let me live by grace and grow in gratitude. Truly, thanks be to God.